Joining me now on the Knicks Film School Podcast, we are now officially in the middle of training camp week, preseason, first game of preseason week, and the first NBA game that will be played in less than 2 weeks, and the first Knicks game is a little bit more than 2 weeks away. All things to be excited about, and so what better thing to do to celebrate than to make predictions, and who better to make predictions that probably won't come true than the most esteemed voices of Knicks niche podcasting, to borrow a Zach Lowe line. First, my co-host and just one of my favorite people, Jeremy Cohen. Hello, Jeremy.
Hey, John.
How are you?
I'm all right.
Actually, don't answer that.
I've been better. I've been worse.
There you go. But we couldn't do this just me and good old Jeremy, so we brought in the heavy hitters, the hosts of the most listened to Knicks podcast out there. And if you are not subscribed and listening to this bad boy on a daily basis, I don't know what you are doing. Alex and Gavin. Hey, guys.
Yo.
Hey, John. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Honored to be on. Very excited. Very excited to make these predictions with you.
I think we're, you said most listened to. I think we're kind of volume shooters. I think I put it to you the one time, like, since we do 5 shows a week, we're basically like Monta Ellis scoring 50 points on 50 shots.
I was going to go with Luka. I mean, Luka, dirty little secret. He's only at what, 32 point something, 33? No, maybe a little bit higher, 33 point something like that.
Yeah. I'll take Luka over Monta if we ever do.
I'm sure you will. Yeah. Okay, so here's how this is going to work. This is actually going to be the first of 3 episodes. This episode obviously is running right now because you're listening to it, in which all of us will make one bold. That's the other thing I should have mentioned. These aren't just like, Frank's going to average over a steal a game. No. We're putting ourselves out on a bit of a limb with these. We're all going to make a bold preseason prediction, one each on this episode. And then we will all continue this conversation on Locked On Knicks, which is why, again, if you're not subscribed, you should subscribe to that. And we'll make a few more predictions on, I think, 2 episodes of that show coming up later this week. So, without further ado, I wish I had straws that we would pick virtually, but I don't. So how should we decide this? Who is, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10. Jeremy?
4.
Alex?
7.
Oh, I was going to go with 7.
Tough shit.
Now I'm really screwed here because I can go between them. I can go
too late, Gavin. It was 7.
Hey,
Gavin said 7. I heard Gavin say 7 first.
Oh my God, we're already in hot water.
I don't need to get sick.
Alex, why don't you choose? You could choose to go first. You could choose who goes first, and then
I'm gonna. You know what? I'll just, since Gavin was gonna get the number right anyway, I'll pass it to Gavin.
There you go.
All right, I guess. All right, I'm gonna go with what I will say is I was gonna save the heavy hitting prediction for our podcast, but since I'm first, I'll bring it out here. I was gonna say something about Frank, but instead I will go with RJ Barrett and say that he is going to hit the following statistical benchmarks this year: 35 minutes played a game, 20 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. My case is pretty simple. There's no one like RJ Barrett on the Knicks in terms of pedigree, style, role, need for him to show something this season, but also his actual ability to do those things on the court. Tom Thibodeau obviously has a history of relying pretty heavily on whoever his best player is at the time. He's not afraid to play that particular person significant minutes. I feel like RJ, with the right amount of shots and the right amount of, I guess, prominence in the offense, this is all very achievable. I don't think he's going to score 20 points particularly efficiently, but I do think he'll do it. I'm pretty confident his 3-pointer is going to be better. I think the spacing around him will be a lot better, and you'll see games far more similar to when he went off against the Rockets than what we saw probably for 80% of the year. I do think this prediction is contingent on Julius Randle being dealt by the deadline, because if not, I just don't think he gets enough touches for it to get done. But I do think that will happen, and I do think RJ, given a big role, can put up these numbers, even if he doesn't do so in an ideal way in terms of efficiency and in terms of shot profile.
Can I ask, of the 4, which are you most dubious about happening?
The points or the assists? The assists, because there are just a lot of ball handlers that the Knicks
you had five rebounds, 4 assists, or the other way around?
Yeah, so him getting the 4 assists is like a little iffy. I think he's a good enough passer to get that done. I think ultimately the 20 points is where I'm least confident. I think if I wasn't being bold, I probably would have capped it at like 17 or 18. But I do think it's with slightly better 3-point shooting. I think it's feasible he gets to 20.
Yeah, I think the 20. Well, here's the thing. If he gets to 35 minutes, I think he's getting the 20 points. I don't think he's getting the 35 minutes. That's where that's my Alex. Am I off here?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not. It just depends on how reformed Tibbs really is as far as his
his wayward ways.
Yeah, well, I mean, because he's talked the talk about getting better, about playing guys too many minutes, but he kind of, I think, talked the talk a little bit about that before the Timberwolves, and then proceeded to play Wiggins and Cat and Butler like tons and tons of minutes.
Yeah,
I think ultimately RJ could hit 35 minutes, because I think that my stance with regard to Tibbs and minutes this year is this, and I think this is basically how it's gone at every stop. He doesn't like force the players to play that many minutes. I think that if the players think that they're physically capable of doing that, and they choose to, and they're like enthusiastic about it, then Tibbs will play them that many minutes.
Although Wiggins was winded a few times, like that was a running theme, I feel like, in Minnesota occasionally, where Wiggins would it would be like 2 minutes left in the first quarter, and Tibbs hadn't taken him out, and you'd see him like with his hands on his knees or whatever.
Well, maybe Tibbs was the one that inspired Wiggins to put on 40 pounds of muscle or whatever this offseason, whatever that meme is going around.
Did he get jacked?
He got pretty jacked. Yeah. I mean,
I saw the degree that the meme is, but yeah, he got
okay.
The meme was someone, I don't remember who, but someone, maybe it was just a random tweet that I saw that got barely any interaction.
No, I saw it too. It was his head on Giannis's body, right?
No, the one that I saw was someone took his arms and like Photoshop blew them up to be like enormous, and then was like breaking. Andrew Wiggins says he put on like 400 pounds of muscle this offseason or something. It's with these like giant like Photoshop enhanced arms. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah. Just like you said, like Wiggins was getting winded or whatever, RJ probably would be too, because I think that we saw under Fizdale when he was playing RJ like 36, 37 minutes a game, that he was getting tired out during games too, and it was affecting his performance.
Yeah.
But I don't know if RJ would ever say no. Like, I don't think that RJ was putting up any resistance to Fizz as far as playing minutes, because I think RJ's a competitor, and he's just like, I'll play however many minutes it takes, that you think is going to get us a win.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately that's where we'll come to with Tibbs too, is ultimately it's just going to be like,
I'm going to throw out very quickly. Another variable for me is potential COVID absences. And I think there will be nights where the Knicks will inherently have shorter rotations. Sure. And obviously that's impossible to predict. Who knows? Maybe everyone on the team has already had it. But there's a scenario where there are stretches where he's going to have to go far over 35 minutes.
Yeah, no, I all good points. I'm writing all these down, by the way, because I'm holding us all to these. Whoever gets the most gets the other three have to chip in for like a bottle of scotch. Jeremy,
for writing them down. Props to you for writing them down on pen and paper, considering we literally have a digital log of them on Twitter in a DM.
My mind doesn't work like this. Jeremy, we should do some Twitter polls following this up. Anyway, Jeremy, you want to give us your first?
Yeah. Well, just quickly, I think absolutely what you guys are saying makes a ton of sense. Also, in terms of how many shots RJ Barrett is taking in order to get 20 points. I think if he
37,
if he gets to the rim quite a lot, if he improves his finishing, especially if he's able to even be 10% better from the free throw line, then he's definitely going to get closer to that 20-point mark. But I agree. I think Randall probably has to be gone in order for that to come about. So sure, for my point, perfect segue. I believe that by the time of the trade deadline, Julius Randle will be, this is a bold prediction, I guess, although maybe it isn't. He'll be second in the team in minutes played per game. And the thing that I keep thinking about is, okay, well, obviously you've got Obi Toppin, who's just begging to steal his starting spot, whether it's because Randall started last year or because he's going to potentially be starting this year, who knows? But the idea as well that it would mean that he has to be so good that he stays on the floor for that period of time, and that the offense can in some ways flow through him in a way that it was destructive last time, maybe it can be more constructive this time. I'm still skeptical, but the idea of Tibbs running veterans, we know that he maybe doesn't play rookies and second-year players quite as much as we may think. He definitely likes the veterans. So getting a guy like Julius Randle, who obviously is very close to Kenny Payne, figuring out some sort of rotations where he's able to log significant minutes, trailing only, in this case, RJ Barrett. I'm going to put that as my first bold prediction.
Yeah, I think all I would throw out there is we talked about a little bit, because we got a mailbag question about OB and Julius Randle playing together, and Alex and I both pretty immediately came to the conclusion that's not at all tenable. So I'm just interested to see what that looks like, because I think if Randle is second in minutes, that means him and Obi, there's obviously some overlap. And does that mean one of them is a small ball five, or are you trying to go super big, which I personally think doesn't make any sense. But I also think, to your point, Jeremy, I wouldn't be shocked if it happened.
I'd go with someone playing small ball five. From the thinking of like, Nerlens Noel played, you said this the other day on our pod, Jeremy, he played 18 minutes a game last year. The season before that, he only played 13 minutes a game. I mean, he might just be a 15, 16 minute a game player in a perfect world. Steven Adams was a little banged up last year. Part of the reason why maybe Nerlens got even more minutes than he's accustomed to. Mitch is, listen, it's the great unknown with Mitch. When can he get up to 30 minutes a game? I mean, who the hell knows? But if you're asking me if there's 5 minutes a game where those guys could share the floor, yeah, I think there's 5 minutes a game where they could share it. But we'll see. All right, Alex, this is my part of the show, so I'm gonna punt it to you so I could go last. What's your? I'm gonna turn it to you. Yeah. What do you got?
I was just gonna briefly add to that.
Oh, please.
That discussion. The mailbag question that we got asked was apparently, I don't know where exactly he brought it up, but Alan Hahn, maybe it was on his show or maybe it was somewhere else, brought up that they're entertaining playing Obi Toppin at the 3. And if that ever happens, I mean, it's going to be a strong discussion between what was more disastrous, playing Obi at the 3 or playing Kevin Knox at the 2. Like, as far as horrendous decisions.
Well, Alex, there's a world where we see both of them together this year.
Can you imagine the ultra big lineup? That would be Mike Woodson's wet dream.
With RJ at the point, right?
Yeah,
RJ running point.
Yeah,
Frank at the point. Okay.
Yeah. Or Randall at the point, and then you got to just make it even bigger from there.
Yeah, I mean, you could do like Randall at the point, Knox at the 2, Obi at the 3, and then Nerlens and Mitch at the 4 and 5. That's the
or you could have DSJ
lineup
as a rim running 5 if you really want to invert the offense.
That's true. Yeah, you could invert it.
Full switcheroo there. Yeah.
Yeah. DSJ, man in the middle. You got ups. Show
the Lakers ran out lineups where I think everybody was 6. Well, how tall is Danny Green? Danny Green might have been the shortest one.
He's like
Sixers did it too, where they had what was it, like Richardson and Simmons and Bede.
Yeah.
Couple other guys.
Hey, listen, East is big, man.
East is big, man. So is the West, apparently. I don't know.
Perfect transition to you. You're the tallest person on here.
Yeah. All right.
The
crossover is big, man. All right.
Yeah.
So, all right. My first prediction, and this one actually overlaps. I like semi-cheated. I didn't think of a new one for this one. This one overlaps with the one that we recorded for the Locked On NBA national show. And, Macri, this is me like basically spitting in your face and spitting in your sources' faces.
Hold on, let me get a towel.
Because I refuse to believe anything else. And this is probably just me being blind. But I'm going to say my bold prediction is that Frank becomes the first Knicks draft pick to get either extended or re-signed since Charlie Ward, thus breaking the aptly named by fans and media alike Charlie Ward curse. And becoming the first Knick to, extend his career from rookie to, not from rookie, but from rookie contract to second contract on the Knicks, I guess I should say. And yeah, I don't know. It would be so beautiful to me. I don't know. It's just like poetic justice that he got drafted by Phil Jackson over Dennis Smith Jr., who then, Phil Jackson gets fired like 5 days later. And then, obviously they weren't going to deal him then because he was still their draft pick, regardless of if Mills or Perry or whoever liked him versus anybody else. But then, literally starting by like the trade deadline of his first season, he's getting involved in trade rumors. Every single trade deadline since then, it's been like, oh, the Knicks are willing to trade Frank Ntilikina for literally anything. Like, we'll take a top 55 second round, protected pick for him, like blah, blah, blah. Like, if anybody made even the smallest offer for Frank Ntilikina, the Knicks would deal him. And yet he survived and he survived and he survived. And then, he's gone through 3 coaches now.
Well, this is his 4th coach. Yeah.
Yeah. This is going to be his 4th coach coming up, and his 3rd regime now that he's under. And, he's like, I've called him before. He's like a beautiful cockroach. There's just no killing him. He's going to survive. He's going to survive all the Knicks nuclear holocausts and retire a Knick someday.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Are you predicting he signs the extension before the season?
If it were up to me, he would.
Well, if it were up to me, he would too. But I'm just.
No, I don't think he's going to. Because I do think that the new front office wants to get a look at him, and just be certain that he's going to be a guy that they want to keep around. Which, again, that kind of points to your reporting that it sounds like your reporting and others that it sounds like Dennis Smith Jr. is sort of the apple of their eye still somehow, and is like the guy that they're determined to use Fizz terminology, get right, versus Frank. But, I don't think they're going to extend him before the season unless there's like a crazy, crazy good deal. I actually don't even know for sure that they'll give him the qualifying offer if they think that there's a chance that, they can get someone else in free agency next year. I think that they'll just sign him to a reasonable contract next offseason. Because his qualifying offer, Jeremy, you could correct me, is something like 8. It's
8.3.
Yeah,
but the cap. It's the cap hold. Which is
exactly. It's just a cap hold until they sign a number. But
17 million.
17. Sorry.
Yeah. But so that's my prediction. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that, Macri? I'll throw it to you first. You can tell me
I want to say,
but
if I've ever I stay up writing these fucking things until 3 a.m. So I could type shit that is just wrong. I don't think I've ever reported that someone has told me that they are not going to extend Frank. And if I've intimated that, then that's my bad. It is my feeling, just based on again, the things you hear around, as I'm sure all of you guys hear stuff too, that it, my personal opinion,
we do not. You were the one with sources here. We are all just regular scrubs.
Well, so I hear stuff from you, John.
Okay. Yeah. It would surprise me just because again, this is not me breaking news here. It doesn't feel like the organization is as committed to him as they are to, let's say, Kevin Knox, who came out today and was like, it feels great to have the organization behind me, or whatever I forget what the exact words were, but it was something to that effect. Whereas Frank went in front of the camera the other day, and anytime the words "I'm here" come out of a player's mouth during immediate availability, that to me, it might not be a red flag, but it's like it's some color flag.
It is what it is type of situation.
Yeah, it is what it is. Exactly. Could you imagine if he said, "I'm here, it is what it is"? That would be really bad. He didn't say that. I guess my only, not pushback, but my only thing that I'm wondering about is that would assume that things went really well. Maybe not even really well. Things went well this season. Frank was happy, the team was happy, everybody was happy. And I think that presupposes that both the team and the player are on the same page about what the player is. And I don't think the team is on the page that Frank Ntilikina is a point guard. And I just wonder, is there a part of Frank Ntilikina that wants to still be on that page? So that's the only thing I guess I wonder about. Jeremy, what do you think on this one?
I would say, Monte Morris just signed an extension that was 3 years, $27 million.
Nice.
And
nice.
Morris is, he went from a two-way player to earning an average of $9 million a year. That's great. He, to me, is a really interesting case study because of the fact that he's a few years older than Frank is now. And he's certainly much better in terms of how he's able to operate. He plays for a winning team. He's incredible when it comes to his assist to turnover ratio. At least he set the record in college for the best one of all time. So he's a pure point guard who's excelled in the NBA. Frank has not gotten to that point yet. So the idea of, will Frank come close to producing at that level 3 years from now? I'm not sure, truthfully. So if you're the Knicks, I can understand why, if you throw out that $8.3 million qualifying offer and he takes it, then he's got a no trade clause, can't really do much with that. It's a little bit tricky. And if you offer him something that's lower right now, it'll probably be looked at as an insult, because the idea of making Frank's salary for 2021, 2022 being on par or lower than what he's making this year, I don't think he'd take too kindly to that offer. I don't know if anyone really would, knowing that you're on the upward trajectory of your career and yet you're making less than you would be. So hopefully, he does get paid. I'd love to see it. I think it'd be bold to say that he does get a contract before the year is for the offseason's over. But no, I'd love to see him break that Charlie Ward course. That'd be amazing.
We all would. Fantastic. We all would. Gavin, anything to add?
No, only that I would love to live in that world, but it would be antithetical to one of my predictions to agree with Alex. So I will say that I don't think it will happen, and I'd encourage everyone to listen to Locked On Knicks to find out what that prediction is. But before that, John, I know we still have one final one left.
Yes.
Basically, you just witnessed the breakup of Locked On Knicks live on podcast.
It was bound to happen eventually.
And we got the video of it too now.
Yeah, it's good.
I will say that I think this is I don't know what I think is more unlikely, this or yours, Gavin. Not. I don't want to piss on your parade, Gavin, but just 35 minutes and 20 points. That's a lot.
You're on both.
Yeah. Well, so mine I think is probably going to come in as like the least hot of these takes, which is that one, Dennis Smith Jr. I think will start game one. I don't think that's a particularly bold prediction. I think the bolder part is that I think he's going to play well. What is well? I'm not comfortable putting any numbers on that because I'm a bit of a wuss. But I think it'll be good enough that Nick Nation universally looks at this and at him and is like, wow, that's the guy that we wanted to get in the Porzingis trade, and we're cool with this. And like, yes, let him run with the job. Can't wait to see where this goes. Where it goes from there, I don't know. Does he sustain it? Does he play like that for 2 weeks and get traded? I'm not comfortable saying either of those things. But I think when you have a situation like this where the problems to me, they're all above the neck. They're all above the neck. And not to say that those are easier problems to fix. If anything, they might be harder problems to fix. But I think, I don't know. I could see the relationship with Tibbs going well, as crazy as that is to say. Maybe, who knows? Maybe Dennis Smith Jr. is one of those guys that always needed a coach like Tibbs. Maybe, might not be so crazy. Yeah, that's my bold one. So feel free to shoot that down, anybody. I don't know what you guys think.
My counterpoint to the whole did he need a coach like Tibbs thing would just be, didn't he already have a coach with the renowned and respect of Tibbs and sort of the rep for being a hard ass in Carlisle already? And
then Carlisle got a better looking girlfriend the next year.
Yeah, but ultimately, like, I don't know. I mean, it was sort of on Dennis Smith to adapt or die in that situation, right? And he chose die.
Yeah, but I think he needs to feel loved. That's my point. I think it's for Dennis Smith Jr. It's all about feeling loved. And
you think Tibbs is gonna make him feel loved?
I think
Tibbs is gonna make him feel like a piece of shit sometimes.
But that could be Johnny Bryant, not Johnny.
Yeah,
Johnny Bryant helping to balance that out.
But that's why they brought in these guys, right? The Johnny Bryants, the Kenny Paynes, the Mike Woodsons. Like, these are guys who make players feel special. And is Dennis Smith Jr. willing to give the organization that chance? I don't know. The one thing I will say, he's up for a payday. And if this is something I will put out there, I think money matters to him. I think money absolutely matters to him.
It matters to everybody. He's literally, I mean, I think I said this on Locked On Knicks like in the last couple of days, and probably also said this on the Locked On NBA preview show that hasn't come out yet, not to spoil too much. But he's basically, I mean, if he plays like he did last year, again this year, he might literally not get a second NBA contract.
Oh, he's playing in China then in 18 months.
Yeah. Like, or Europe or whatever. Europe might not even want him because he's not a Europe style player. Like, he would probably go to China and be like, he would be like the new Quincy Doobie, like dropping like 80,000 points after flaming out in the NBA. And they'd love him over there. Maybe he would become Marbury's apprentice.
Yeah. That's a good one.
And, end up that way. But yeah, no, I mean, if he puts up another year like last year, he's out of the league, period. Or he gets one or two more failed shots and then he's done.
Yeah.
And that's it.
in my defense, a lot of people, like I've been saying some version of this in like my newsletter over the last few weeks, and people are responding to me like, how in the world can you think that he deserves another chance based on what he did last year? And my response is always like, if he comes out and he does what he did last year again, then he should be like cut like immediately. That's not what I'm presupposing. I'm presupposing he comes out and he looks like a different player, but
Yeah. No, obviously. Yeah. But like you were saying, like what constitutes better? And I'm like, I mean,
I think he is his rookie year self, but like 5 to 10% more efficient in every way, meaning more efficient from the field, more efficient in terms of turnovers, more efficient in terms of like trying hard on defense all the time. Not like a huge, but like just enough. Because I think that dude that we saw as again, he wasn't a good player, but he did stuff. And I think, there's a version of that guy that can help a team. So that's, Gavin, what were you going to say?
I think the argument for it was that he was, and I think this is what you're getting at, John. He was broken last season. That wasn't who he was as a player, because that guy looked like he could barely play college basketball. He absolutely couldn't shoot, was completely indifferent defensively. I mean, he looked like, frankly, that he had other stuff on his mind, which we know he like dealt with a tragedy last year. Intuitively, it would affect anyone. It's incredible sometimes when it doesn't affect other players more. And I think you almost have to throw out last season, because statistically, it was like the worst shooting season a perimeter player has had in modern NBA history, right?
He was the worst player in the NBA. I feel comfortable saying that. The worst rotation player.
The worst rotation player in like a couple of years in terms of his efficiency numbers. Like you don't see, like young Ricky Rubio was sort of similar. You really don't see numbers like that in the NBA. And that makes me think, okay, this is a complete outlier. I want to throw this out. Again, going back to Alex's point, though, the question I have, is how adaptable is this guy? How willing is he to play a role that he didn't play his entire life before the NBA? And to your point, John, maybe 2 years of added maturity of just life experience say, okay, I am not that guy in the NBA. There are Luka Doncic's out there who are much, much better than me at basketball. And I am not an alpha dog on this level, but there is a way I can contribute. And we've seen flashes of it. I thought the first couple of games when he went over, and again, this is a small sample size, when he first was a Knick, he was making smart decisions. He was a good passer. He was prudent with the basketball. He shot 19 free throws against Detroit. He was getting to the line. There's a mold for him to be an effective NBA player. The shot has to be dramatically improved. That's the biggest thing. I think for him to have a future as a rotation guy in the NBA, he has to be able to hit free throws at over a 75% clip, because that's where he's going to make his money with his athleticism, his ability to get to the basket. And if he can do that, if he can shoot 75% from the line and 35% from three, which is an exponential improvement from last season, it's a meager improvement from when he was younger. I think that's doable. And to your point, there's stuff that he can do that Frank just can't do. And the inverse is true. And I think we'd all agree what Frank does is ultimately more valuable. But there's a fair argument to the contrary, given the constraints on some of the other guys on this Knicks team. I don't know. Jeremy, what do you think about it?
Well, John knows this, but I keep going back to the point of, if you can't play with Luka Doncic, who can you play with? And so for me, it's the idea of, I don't know what Dennis Smith Jr.'s future is, but I don't know if he's necessarily a winning player. I'm dubious about that. It doesn't mean, don't give him a shot, but it's a sort of thing where, and Gavin, I know you're saying that he didn't look like how he'd looked before. For me, it's just the idea of I can't remember the last time he really popped. Because in college, even then, I thought, for me, I never was a huge fan, because it just felt a lot like a lot of flash, and the dunks were great and some of the playmaking, it could work, but it just didn't. It never felt like it came through. So we saw, I think today, Miles Powell talking about how he's studying Patty Mills because that's the player he wants to become. And I'm curious if Dennis Smith Jr. has that mindset of, I need to study who these players are and try to determine who I can be.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hold in my laughter for that.
Or versus the idea of him thinking like, well, no, I'm a former lottery pick. I belong. I should be a better player than this, and thinking he has higher aspirations. And it's fine if he does. It's just a matter of if he hits them. And I'm skeptical that he does. I certainly hope it, because that was a huge part of the trade that came in for Porzingis. If he's not going to be considered a long-term asset here, at least try to get something for him, but not to the point where you're like trying to salvage 1 second-round pick for him, and that's negating any growth that you could get from other players. So I don't know. Part of me thinks that what you're saying, John, might be the boldest of the takes that we've had.
Ow.
And that
Fired.
The starting part is not
Shots fired.
Part. I think he could definitely be a starter. The playing well, I'm sorry, Alex. I know you're still on the DSJ train, but I don't know. It's I hope to be wrong here. What we've seen in the past doesn't necessarily prove that he will play well.
What were you going to say? Sorry.
No, just hopefully he's changed.
Yeah.
Sorry, Alex. It didn't.
I just want to say, you bringing up the Doncic thing, like who doesn't want to play with Luka Doncic? It reminds me of when Kyrie Irving didn't want to play with LeBron James anymore, and Dennis Smith Jr. thinks of himself as like a Kyrie Irving-esque player, and that's not an exaggeration. So yeah, it kind of made sense. Alex, final word, and then we're closing out this part of the episode.
I was just gonna say, I want to clarify that I don't like 100% think that Dennis Smith Jr. is gonna, like, I've joked about it on Twitter and whatever, saying like I'm dedicating my life to like the cause that Dennis Smith Jr. is gonna be better. I'm not 100% sold on it. You know, a lot needs to happen for him to reach plus player. I do think like certain aspects of his game have been overlooked. Like, I don't think he's a great point of attack defender, but I think he's actually a decent team defender. Stuff like that. Like he hawks the passing lanes pretty well when he's not on the primary ball handler. The only problem is if he then gets in a one-on-one situation with like a shooting guard on the other team, he's vastly overmatched. So, you know, it's things you have to like weigh throughout the game. But like, yeah, I don't think there's a great chance of him proving to be a starting caliber NBA player. I think there is a chance that maybe he starts this year getting to the point where we can start looking at him maybe as someone who tops out as like Dennis Schroeder at some point in his career.
Where did my life go wrong that I am the one of the 4 people on a podcast defending Dennis Smith Jr.? I need to go home. I'm in my home already. I need to go into a quiet room, a dark room.
Macri, where are you?
And reassess my my values. And
who's holding you there? Do I need to examine the room and find context clues?
There's a chain. There's a chain under this desk. All right. Thank you, Jeremy, Gavin, and Alex. Again, quick reminder: go subscribe, listen, rate, review, all the things. Alex and Gavin on the Locked On Knicks podcast. As you are now done with this episode, go check their feed, because the follow up to this will probably be up there very shortly. And as always, thank you for listening to another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. And we'll be back with you with another episode very soon.